see many of you are turning your cameras off, but feel free to keep them on if you feel comfortable doing so. We welcome you in to this meeting in this way. All right, and that's my cue. It's noon, so good afternoon and welcome to Decolonial Perspectives and Practices Hub Syllabus Decon event number 5. We are so pleased to welcome members of the DPPH here in person and online for this event. Welcome Shizlin, Ezgi, and Jamila, and of course all of you who are joining us here today via Zoom. Thanks so much for being here. I'll just mention that this event is part of Ezgi Ozyonum's, residency here at Force-Space. Ezgi is a PhD candidate in education and a Concordia Public Scholar. And on November 10th, she'll be joined by the Director of Decolonizing Curriculum and Pedagogy, Donna Goodleaf, for a conversation. So I invite you back for that, and I'll put the link to that into the chat later on. We are coming to you live from Concordia University's Force-Space, where we facilitate daily activities that focus on what our Concordia community members are working on as individuals and as collectives. So especially focusing on what's happening across the university in terms of various initiatives and research. We are so happy to have DPPH back here with us for the 5th of these events. And since these folks are so excited to get going, I'll keep my introduction very brief, just to mention that we are live streaming this into YouTube, so I'll post the link to that in a minute. And since this is a meeting and you will be going into breakout rooms afterwards, we will invite you to feel free to keep your camera on throughout. We have it on active speakers, so you won't be part of that recording. All right, folks, so on that note, I pass it over to you. Ezgi, welcome.
Hello, everyone. Welcome. Thank you, Anna, for your amazing introduction. Thank you all for joining the Force-Space virtually during my residency week at the Force-Space and attending Hub Syllabus Decon event. This is an interactive event aimed to bring faculty, staff, students, and community organizers together to experiment what it could mean to practice and co-create decolonial pedagogy and curriculum. I can see familiar faces attending here. For some, it may be your first time. For others, maybe you joined before. Welcome back. I remember seeing you from the previous events and your contributions. Can you believe it's the 5th Syllabus Decon event? It's great to see demand, and our community is growing. So let me introduce myself. I'm Ezgi. I'm one of the public scholars of Concordia University. And what I do is I organize events like this, that I engage with the public related to the topics of decolonization and internationalization of higher education. I continue my studies as PhD candidate in education, and my doctoral research examines decolonizing strategies of Canadian universities, and I explore ways to include marginalized knowledges into our curriculum and pedagogy. I have also my second hand today. I am Decolonial Perspective and Practices Hub member, event organizer, and I have a co-organizers and co-facilitators today with me, Chas and Jamila. They will also introduce themselves in a minute. Nice to have the power of collaboration. I'm also happy to collaborate with all of you today. Before I pass the mic on, let me share today's agenda that you all know what to expect. The next Chess will share our rules and engagement and Hub's length acknowledgement. And then Jamila, she will be presenting the Decolonial Hub and who we are. Then I briefly share a short presentation on deepening praxis, what we have been learned to organize these events, what is my takeaway as a facilitator and a researcher in this field. And finally, after all of this, the fun part will start. We will break into small breakout rooms and start decolonizing syllabus together. We will provide the details of the breakout rooms shortly. I hope all of you are excited as much as I am. Thank you once again for joining us today. I also want to acknowledge our sponsors, the SHIP, the Fourth Space, the Public Scholar Program, and Hub's members. I can see Alben and others in the space. And Chess, please go ahead and tell us about yourself and introduce the rules and land acknowledgement. Thank you all for joining.
Amazing. Thank you so much, Ezgi, and super happy to see all of our hubbies, as we call our hub communities. And I will be your tech facilitator. Any questions you have, feel free to react and share in the chat. You can private message me or message the whole community as well. So this is just a quick run through to make sure that technologically we're all equally empowered to be fully in attendance. So you can see here on the screen, it's a representation of what you may be looking at on your devices. So I'm going to go from left to right to get you situated. Whenever you're going to be prompted, we want to hear from you literally. And so no pressure. We don't want any voluntary victims of vocalization, but you can unmute at will. Really, we invite you as well to show your beautiful faces, to magnify the human connection in the space. And when you click on the participant icon, you can go back to your name and introduce yourselves with your pronouns as well. And if not, in the same participant option, you can have different ways of interacting with people. You have the chat, private message people, or message the whole group. So that's one thing. And eventually, once we do the actual syllabus decon, you will be prompted to get into your breakout room. And when you do so, you can also have you're going to have the hand raise option. If you're stuck, one of the facilitators will come into the room, making sure that you're good to go. But before that, all the instructions will be shared. So don't worry, we got you covered. And so this is just, the synopsis. And if not, once you are in your breakout room, you will see the number that you are assigned. And that will help you just to get started in the exercise. But we'll circle back around after the break for that part. So as I said, happy to have you here, introduce in the chat, and we'll talk more later.
And now we'll give it
Amazing. So right now we're going to jump into the land acknowledgements. Sorry about the little tech hazard here. And we have a way that we do it that is very unique to the hub. We'll walk you through this in a second. And so in a fashion that is unique to the Decolonial hub, we want to acknowledge two separate legacies and two distinct categories of autonomous peoples, note the plural. So namely the Black and the Indigenous through our land-specific acknowledgements, and the all-center Concordia as our locus of engagement together. In so doing, we want to grant each category of peoples its own space to be seen, recognized, self-empowered, and self-determined. We do so in ways that are not comparative, in ways that are not relative to one another. We're using their very own words and their legacies to ground us all into transracial allyship and educational resistance. In this capacity, we activate transracial allyship, and we model as a hub what BIPOC autonomy, leadership, self-governance, and willfully responsible allyship look like. We recognize how the POC, people in color, in BIPOC, are as instrumental now as they've always been so historically in constructing that core layer of transracial allyship for the Black and Indigenous communities particularly. We acknowledged our voices as the historically denied, unrecognized, racialized, and as the silent bodies, voices, identities, and peoples who have been historically instrumental in destabilizing coloniality and racism. So I'm going to proceed with a quick reading out loud of the Indigenous Land Acknowledgement. It is brought to you by the Concordia Indigenous Directions Leadership Group. We'll take 10 seconds of silence after each acknowledgement in a way that expresses and utilizes silence as a modality for activistic acknowledgement anti-colonial resistance, and transracial allyship. So here goes, and you can follow along with me. We would like to begin by acknowledging that Concordia University is located on unceded Indigenous lands. The Ganeganega Nation is recognized as the custodians of the lands and waters on which we gather today. The Jogging Trail is historically known as a gathering place for many First Nations. Today, it is home to a diverse population of Indigenous and other peoples who respect the continued connections with the past, present, and future, and our ongoing relationships with Indigenous and other peoples within the Montreal community. So right now, I'm going to invite you to take 10 seconds of silence, and I will proceed forwards with the other part of our land acknowledgements. Beautiful. So thank you for your silence, your solidarity. Now we're going to move forward with the second part, and we're making space for the Black land acknowledgement. And it comes to us through the Black Canadian Tribute. As Black Canadians, land acknowledgements are a moment to honor the implications of being displaced, and enslaved peoples on stolen lands. To acknowledge your solidarity with the Indigenous peoples of Canada as we frequent and benefit from their lands within our shared histories of genocide, dispossession, and ongoing systemic oppression by settler colonialism. Taking from Natasha Henry, president of the Ontario Black History Association, and Chimake Mogo from the Canadian Race Relations Association. As Black people in Canada, let's pay homage to the exported Africans, the Black and enslaved, who risked their lives for us to be here together and live out here without physical chains. We'll now observe 10 seconds of silence. Amazing. So thank you so much, everyone. And now we're making space for Jamila, who's going to take it away for us.
Thank you very much, Ches. Oh, my mic is working. I'm here at the Force Space for the first time, engaging with new tech, and it's very exciting to be here. So I just wanted to open up the floor to talk about the Hub. For those of you who are new to our sessions, my name is Jamila. I'm a PhD student of sociology, a founding member of the Hub, and your co-facilitator today. We are the Decolonial Perspectives and Practices Hub, a coalition, a collective, and a fluid space that brings faculty, staff, students, and community organizers together to experiment with what it could or even should mean to practice and co-create decolonial pedagogy. In other words, we guide aspiring decolonists and social justice enthusiasts to interrogate how to center the voices and knowledges of Black, queer, Indigenous, Asian, and other peoples racialized as colored into the culture of the academy, the classroom, peer and community relations. We take decolonizing as an aspirational, local, and global quest. We joined the 20th century intellectual movement to decolonize knowledge by interrogating colonial logics in our academic systems. We stand with Indigenous activists that decolonizing must further efforts for Indigenous territorial reparations and sovereignty within and beyond Canada. We stand with the Global South to hold space to humanize and collectivize education beyond systemic racism and EDI 101, beyond definitions, beyond plug and play, beyond solutions, and beyond representation. So welcome to the Hub, where we unpack and reimagine our learning environments together. Today, we pass you the mic to reflect on the syllabus. Now, please take it away, Ezgi.
Thank you so much, Jamila. And with the Hub, I was having a conversation, what could be the best for us to share today, what I could bring to the space, today's syllabus Decon. And we thought that it has been already 5th syllabus Decon, and we started to learn some insights and some patterns. So today I would like to share a bit deepening praxis on what we have been learning, as well as a researcher in the field of decolonization of higher education, I would like to also share my knowledge and insights that what have I been learning. So let me share my screen. I hope everybody have access now. So today, what I'm bringing to space is through my PhD research work on how and to what extent the strategies for decolonizing curriculum and pedagogy inform inclusion of other knowledge systems or ways of knowing. I'm bringing the conversations that we have been having with the it's written wrongly in there. It's Decolonial Perspective and Practices Hubs, events, research, meetings. And I also, if I have any chance, I really try to go all these decolonizing higher education conferences, workshops, and try to really learn through my own personal practices as a teacher, as an instructor, as a facilitator. So I try to bring all the insights that I have in a short and concise platform. So I would like to start with the 6 years ago when the Truth and Reconciliation Commission of Canada raised 94 calls to action. The chair starts the meeting with this sentence: education got us into this mess, and education will get us out of it. So I do believe, and Hub also believe, that the education has a huge potential and value for society. But also we can question what is education for and what was education for before, to make the society a just place or keep education to elite and create further privileges. So education and society dynamics are evolving over time, and actually because the universities continue to keep colonial structures of societies, now they are asked to solve society's problems. And it's nice to see how this solving process takes place through decolonization, higher education. So when we look at the debate in general for decolonization, we could see that this debate is taking places in many levels as well as in many levels. So what I mean is, among students, decolonization debate is going on. They question about the racial inequalities, the students question about the classrooms and how it relates to their own lives. And this debate is continue among faculty members, among staff, and at the government level, there are some policies which are very important to really to think about how we could implement them. And in higher education institutions, they also in this debate of decolonization, and there has been a question whether we can decolonize academia or not. I think this debate is how I position myself or how I perceive this question. And in our previous decolonizing event with the Syllabus Decon with Dr. Kazım, he also mentioned that decolonization should take place within academia, without academia, in a way that it should be outside of the academia, that we are having those conversation and implementation of decolonization, but within the academia itself, we should really try to decolonize our institutions. So when we look at overview of what is decolonization and curriculum and pedagogy and how it unfolds itself, is actually what we try to do is identifying ways in which the university structurally reproduce colonial hierarchies, and then we try to reimagine them and really put the alternatives into practice. So we need to really reflect, think, reconstruct course syllabus that it could support BIPOC engagement, validation, and sense of belonging. And today our event is created for that reason, that the design, content, And the tone of course syllabus will either engage students or disengage students, that we need to really think deeply. So this event of syllabus deconstruction is more than a diverse list. We want to conceive the syllabus as a tool, and I will explain what I mean syllabus as a tool in the next slide, that determines the capacity for a course to train students and educators to either maintain systemic racism and oppression or become agents of change. Because of this, the hub says that we see no better time than to view the syllabus as a site for intervention, as a tool with the potential for decolonial resistance. So what I mean, syllabus is a tool. Syllabus can challenge the canon, be a tool for knowledge, and be a part of evolving process beyond its reading list. We can think about how the syllabus can be a tool that silences and oppresses the students and oppresses society, how and why, and how canon plays role. It could be also a syllabus, a tool to explore student sovereignty. It could be a tool for transformative justice and ethical citations. So it can be a tool for knowledge. And as a hub and myself, we see syllabus as an unfinished tool. And we could take this sentence in different perspective. What I would like to highlight today now is when we go into breakout rooms, we try to decolonize a syllabus, but it will not finish there. The conversation should be going on. To each event that we are hosting, syllabus deconstruction, we are changing the questions that we are asking. We are reflecting on how we can be decolonizing further. So then, in your breakout rooms, when you go into, you can think about how to deconstruct syllabus that we can all think about together. And our previous participations adopt different approaches that I would like to highlight, and your group can choose which one to proceed. So one of them is take the syllabus examples that we share and put a feedback on specific syllabus that we're gonna share with you and different parts of the syllabus. Or you can think a syllabus, a general concept, and you can put a general comments on the parts of the syllabus there. You can answer the questions that we provided for you, or you can even create your own new questions to answer in breakout rooms. That we love to hear your questions regarding on the syllabus. And not only think about this curriculum, but please think about the pedagogy. What I mean is not only what is written there, but please think about ways how we could implement the syllabus into the classroom. And don't worry about the mistakes, because I do believe that mistakes are learning opportunities that we can all learn from. So in the first part of the syllabus, which contains the introduction and the length acknowledgement that you will see in the example, we think about whose knowledge counts. And in the part, we came up with 3 questions. And the first 2 are, how can instructors' perspectives not limit the co-creation of knowledge in the classroom? How can equal power dynamics be shifted to create ecologies of knowledges? So within our classrooms, who are the knowledge makers and creators? Please reflect on these questions. And then maybe we can think of ways that how we can the syllabus can be crafted to create more collaboration opportunities among instructor, students, and the community. So in the territory acknowledgement part of the syllabus, before we were asking whether a syllabus has a territorial acknowledgement or not. And now we would like to take it more deeper level, that how territorial acknowledgement is presented, And what other ways to present in the classroom that we can think about these questions? Because land acknowledgement in syllabus is not a checklist that, okay, I have the land acknowledgement and I can move on. But we try to learn how we bring land acknowledgement into the classroom. And previous syllabus Decon and some of the workshops that I attended, they have been sharing good examples. For example, during the pandemic, one of the instructors asked each student where they locate in different parts of the world to bring their own land acknowledgement to the classroom. And they could engage writing their own land acknowledgement. Or there has been other examples that they could bring some objects from their lands to share in the classroom. But I don't want to limit you with these examples. Please share your own thoughts on this question. And then after today, maybe you can take an action step to think about how will you adopt land acknowledgements into the syllabus and on your work. So the other part, so the first part was the introduction and the land acknowledgement in the syllabus that we are going to look at together. The second part of the syllabus, we look at the course objectives, assignments, and grading. And we ask these questions. How and to what extent does the course reflect the principles of equity, diversity, and inclusion? But we want you to think about those terms and to think beyond EDI 101. Which course assignments in the syllabus provide alternatives for written assignments? What is a decolonial potential to centering multimodal? It could be oral, video, etc. assignments. Because in the previous syllabus Decon event, what we realized is for the assignments part, many participants share that the many syllabuses contains assignment which focus on written assignments. So we try to diversify and try to decolonize the way how we grade students. And final, the third part of the syllabus that we will look at together. So maybe I could have shared it earlier that we will have a 3-part of the syllabus that we look, is the course material, weekly reading list. So in this part, we can think about which scholars, authors do your field draw from most often and why. There's one example in there, but we really want you to reflect on your own fields and please write there your answers and come up with the new questions. How Indigenous and other marginalized knowledge systems can be comprehensively integrated into course material. We come up with this question because we realize that during indigenization of the course syllabus, it may end up with having only 1 week, but how we could really include marginalized knowledge systems comprehensively. So this is what we try to learn together. And I have 2 final slides that decolonizing starts with you. Because this work of decolonization is crucial. And the reason is Dr. Walter Mignolo, one of the Global South scholars that I adore. In one of his recent interviews, he mentioned these words. He said, coloniality is not over. It is all over. So we really think about decolonization is a lifetime commitment. So I will leave with these thoughts with you. I hope my presentations were clear to set a tone, what we expect and how we really engage together. And we are really, as a hub, I am public scholar, I'm really open to learn all of you. So what we will do is we will have a 5-minute break. And then after the 5-minute break, we will come together and go into the breakout rooms. But before going to the breakout rooms, we will use Mural, is one of the technological tools that Chaz will share, and I will explain what is the teaching methodology that we will use, which teaching strategy, which is called carousel. So I will explain these, and then we will go into the breakout rooms, and it would be lovely if you could turn on your cameras after the break that we can all engage. So my time is 12:29, so maybe we can come together at 12:34. Thank you so much. Welcome back, everyone. We try to give this breaks for us that we don't have any Zoom fatigue for this 2 hours long event. Thank you all for turning on your cameras. So I briefly share today's, I mentioned about the questions, but I would like to lastly mention about the teaching strategy that we adopt for today's workshop. It's called carousel. Some of you may know as gallery walk. It's ideally that we have stations and a group, small group of people engage with that station and move to the next and move to the next. So it's a cooperative learning activity for reinforcing knowledge and skills. And we have been adopting this strategy for the last 2 syllabus Decon. And we heard also some of the instructors adopting this strategy in their own curriculum and their own teaching in the classroom. Each group begin at a different station. So when you go into the breakout rooms, you will hear your groups, Group A, Part 1, Group B, Part 2, Group C, Part 3, which means we ask you to start from that part. And then after around 15 minutes later, we will guide you and we will send a message, please move to the next part, please move to the next part. So every group needs a timekeeper, and we will also guiding you through the messages, and participants stay at each station for that set period of time. We have enough time. It's never enough, but we try to make it enough time for you to at least put some of your thoughts down. During the time you read the questions, skim over any previous answer by other groups, and then add your own ideas to the moral. And when the timer goes off, you move to the next station. So I try to briefly share the theory behind the teaching strategy, but in order for us to visualize how it will look like in a virtual space, Chess will share the platform that we are using and then explain it to us. Thank you, Chess.
Thank you, Ezgi. So I'm just going to break it down for you before we engage the tool, because as humans, we tend to be distracted with the visuals and then we come up with questions that were preemptively answered. So like Ezgi was explaining to you, basically you're going to be sent off into your breakout group, and you're going to be assigned a starting point. So we have 3 sections. So breakout number 1 starts in, box number 1 and so on and so forth. And what happens is that once you're settled into the space, you will notice that you will all be dealing with a big chunk of the syllabus that has been broken down, and just take a minute to go through it. Don't get caught up in the specifics, but just get a general sense of what's going on there. And you will see that just above it, there will be 2 to 3 prompts to help you direct your focus as to what are the decolonial potentialities in this part of the syllabus, or what is a way to extract more decolonial intelligence out of that. And then collectively as a group, you're just going to come up with your own insights, observations. You can even come up with your own questions. And the way that the platform works, all you have to do is double click, and then there's a post-it that will pop up, and then you can put your insights there. So this is the breakdown. And what we will do is every 15 minutes, we will send you a quick notification to say, hey, 5 minutes left, and now you can switch. And then you're just going to move to the next box. And then you repeat the exercise, but now you're working from a different part of the syllabus, so that at the end of the 45 minutes, everybody would have been hands-on on the full spectrum that the syllabus represents. And again, that's the kind of ideology that we have. Right now, we'll make it practical, and I will be sharing my screen so that you can see what it looks like in action. So you see we have those 3 big sections, and this big chunk here is the syllabus. So section number 1, section number 2, section number 3. As you can see above, you have your prompts, and here I double click and boom, I have a post-it. I can put whatever thoughts I have, and that's what your team is going to be doing to help you navigate the space. It's very intuitive, but to make it simple, if you have a mouse like myself, all you have to do is roll it to zoom in and zoom out. If you don't, you will notice that on the bottom right-handed corner, you do have a representation of the full screen, and there is this little circle. So if I take it and I slide it back and forth, I'm zooming in and out. And then I just need to drag myself to the section that I want to be in, and then I zoom in, and that's very simplistic, okay? And so that's how it's going to roll. As I said, you zoom in. So this is the land acknowledgement / introduction. First thing you want to do, just read it over really quickly, put your thoughts together, and then start playing with the prompts and have a conversation organically as a team around that. So let me know if you have any questions. I will be there with you as support. At any given point in time, you can just, click on the little hand raising option. Somebody of the, from the team will come in to assist you, and will be anyway coming in and out of the breakout room. So you're never going to be on your own to figure things out. So we kept it very easy on your part. And as we're talking right now, we have the beautiful team at For Space. They're already generating the rooms for us. You will be on average, maybe 5 to 6 people in a group, trying to keep it on the low side so that people truly have the opportunity to exchange. And you can talk, amongst yourselves out loud, or some people prefer speaking in the chat. That's cool. So that's the gist of how the space functions, as I said. And the whole point is read, answer, challenge what, the questions, challenge the syllabus, decolonize it together, create new solutions, enhance and transform. That's what we're going for. So we're just waiting for a beautiful team at For Space, open up the
Okay, everybody's coming back.
Amazing. So now we're back. We have people that are starting to trickle back in. I would actually invite you, if you can, to put yourself in the gallery view so that you can see everybody together and embody the decolonization of visual space and togetherness as well. So I know Jamila had a share that she wanted to put forward. And I also wanted maybe to take it more for a macro level before we go into specifics. And we'll be opening up the space so that people may jump in. So as we talk, I really strongly invite you to take a minute and share in the chat and bullet points as to your biggest takeaways or highlights. And you can make it specific to one section, or you can pull it back to something that to you was more a macro level observation as well. And think that a question is as generative as an answer. So you don't have to be the end all be all, but truly just to look at how do I keep on decolonizing my own mind? And there were such fantastic observations that were made. I want you to also be able to enjoy the juiciness of other people's thoughts. So in one of the groups, it really deeply resonated with me. They talked about how to deconstruct or decolonize the construct of madness, and saying that as it pertains to disabilities studies and to mental illness, there's a strong correlation to the histories of racism and of violence against specific peoples. And so when we are in the institution we're teaching, that person particularly was coming from that perspective of making sure that they're incrementing as much as possible accessibility for their students. And that looks like a few different things. For one, having multimodal modes of engaging. So a lot of people talked about having podcasts and options and keeping it open and oral and textual forms of engagement. So that was one thing that was phenomenal. Somebody was talking about at times in regards to, let's say, mental illness or neurodivergence or whatever the prognosis, wanted to be able to apply for ADHD status. Because when you have an institutional recognition for your mental reality, then there's a whole slate of services that open up. So I thought it was a very strong statement to want to be able to claim that institutionally to be able to get due support. So thinking of the student experience, and those are people that went from student to instructor, and they saw both sides of the coin. So how can we take ownership to better accessibilize our spaces? In a different conversation, similar to that and scope, people were saying how even the syllabus itself, there's a way that through different software technology like Word, you can have a reading that will let you know how accessible your content is. So as you guys are putting together syllabus or documentation truly, there's a way that I can have a quick fact check to be able to say, okay, is that accessible, or maybe 50% or 90%, and look at the steps that you can take afterwards to ensure that shift. In the last conversation, we also looked at diversity as something that also needs to be decolonized for its multi-layeredness, diversity in topics. So in one group, they're saying, we don't necessarily question what we are teaching or learning and why. So in one group, for the first time, students got to talk about aging and housing and death. And those are constitutional part of humanhood. So how come we don't talk about this, but we have those, fabricated academic scholarship structure that are part of a different century from a white dominant perspective that is heteronormative and oppressive? Why is that more relevant for the academic ethos than talking about the reality of our shared humanity? We all age and we all die. So how come that isn't more centered and having more voices? So diversity is also what you talk about. And some people shared, to what extent do I get to disrupt and challenge? Because some of you are really active disruptors and they go, I don't know how much leeway I got, because every time I try to push the boundaries. And that also led us to contemplate, there's a way that, let's say, as instructors and students, we can organize ourselves and have informal spaces where we exchange our solutions and our worries. Hey, I tried this in my room, didn't work like I thought, or it worked fantastically with this cohort and it flunked majestically with the other one. So how do we kind of generate the intelligence that we need, because the institution is not always set up for that? So how do we take agency, but in a way that doesn't create more anxiety or anxiousness, but truly gives us something that is actionable? And my last share before kicking it back to Jamila was somebody talking about, you know what, I'm tired of having this tokenistic approach to the land acknowledgement. You know, people having that checklist and feeling good about themselves at the beginning of the meeting, and that's it. So how can we take it beyond that? How do we go beyond diversity one-on-one? And that's why I want to leave it open for you to also think about. As I said, feel free to react in the chat and also move things over. And we may have time for a few people to share out loud, but we really want to hear from you in the chat as well. So Jamila, I know you wanted to share some things, and then we will kick it open to everyone to pitch in. So Jamila, whenever you're ready, let us know. And if not, we can open the floor to other people after. Yeah, there's a lot of echo. So maybe you could give it another whirl. And if it doesn't work, we'll go back to participants and then you can try to get the issue resolved. Try it again. Okay, so I think we might just go with people from our hubby community first. And when Jamila, you're ready, you can just signal in the chat and we'll have it happen.
Can you hear us now? Oh, okay, now it's working. Yeah, sorry for the tech.
That's all.
We can be heard now? Oh, this is, hello everybody, I am back. So thank you for that quick patience. And as I was saying, thank you, Cheslin, for those insights, so that I can hear that your groups were just as invigorating as mine. I wanted to share something very basic, and then we'll open up the floor. There might have been one thing that we all might have forgotten to do, which is so essential for this process, is introducing ourselves, where we're coming from, where we're going, what brought us here. And you know, some of us might have jumped right into the groups, excited to deconstruct and reconstruct. And I want this to be a takeaway that the first place to reconstruct and deconstruct is ourselves and our own accountabilities. And so take that for when you're in the classroom, when you're starting the syllabus, and really being like, where am I coming from? What brings me here today? And we want to make sure that for the next events, that is centered. And so I'm going to just say that real quick. And I have other things to say, but I'm going to pass it over to the floor because I would prefer to hear from everybody else. Ezgi.
Thank you. So it was wonderful. My groups that I also involved the discussions that I really would like to acknowledge while we're talking about the decolonization. There are many barriers, there are many limits for this work. And what has been shared is for the jobs, for the positions, is sometimes there are criteria that it's already limiting for us to be involved. And then there is not real inclusion in those work. And also there has been another limitation raised in the groups, that the syllabus not belong to the instructors. Sometimes departments has their rules. So we acknowledge all these limitations, and I think that's why we are here, to really decolonize our institutions and the way how we are doing things. And now it's the turn for all of you. So what we will do is, I would like to ask volunteers to share your highlights, your group highlights. We will start from part 1, then we will move on part 2, and then part 3. But that's the other thing that what I realized, and Jamila, you also raised, that it's not limited to syllabus. The conversation that we were having is beyond the syllabus, and which was amazing. So if you would like to contribute in any general comment, please feel free. You can raise your hand and I will call out your name. Is there any volunteers who would like to share reflection on part 1? Maybe Chess, in the meanwhile, you can share your screen.
Oh yeah, and we can look at the
contributions.
We can look at
the contributions, which already stated there.
Yeah, well, when I was going over, I noticed that a lot of people felt that there was a tokenization of how the acknowledgement is being centered. And I would really strongly invite people to check out the full page here from the Indigenous Leadership Direction Group, because they give you insights about how to make that a useful and non-tokenistic space, reality, conversation, and they give you prompts on how to articulate your own expression of that. So when you look at something, whether or not you agree, even in your critique, look at how you have agency beyond just the act of critiquing. So people who are saying that, then what would be your version of it? How would you do it? As opposed to merely staying stuck within the narrative of there is an insufficiency, which is fine, but how do we evolve beyond that? Because you become the answer you were looking for. Your capacity to see that something is missing also correlates your capacity to embrace the change that comes with that acknowledgement, right? So that was the thing that was most resounding in people's observations in here, saying it's generic, we don't feel the connection to the people, and yeah, it feels like it's utilitarian, tokenistic, utilization, things of that nature. So yeah, the next step is what are you going to do about it? So what, and give it a whirl, try it out for your own purposes. Right now, I want to see, do people have things they want to say before we look at the other section, either in the chat or out loud? I'm going to mute myself and then just feel free to chime in.
I'm just going to jump in there, Chaz. Yeah. So for me, what I think is missing with the land acknowledgement is my own knowledge. Like I don't know the people. I don't know the history. Like that's what's missing, right? Is my knowledge. So I do things like this, and other workshops, and I make an effort to educate myself. So that's, I think, the best that I can do is to fill that knowledge gap, is to reach out and find out about the people, the Kanien'kehá:ka people. Like that's what I'd like to contribute.
Thank you.
Yeah. Do you want to say something, Ezgi? Go ahead.
Yeah, I just want to thank, because in our group, we also talk about the limitation of sometimes how to pronounce those names and how it can create a barrier. And even we could be shy because of pronunciation. And then we can find alternative ways to bring video that now, for example, Concordia University produce a video. But also, I like the fact that bringing your own knowledge into the space and also to learn, right? We are all open to learn, and the mistakes are welcomed, and this is how we learn to go out of our comfort zone.
And to jump into that, Ezgi, as well, in the group I had, we really honed in on, you know what? We're not supposed to have all of the knowledge. That's why it's really supposed to be based on collaboration. So seek out the people who know and center them, because at the end of the day, we will really not fully understand everyone's dispositions. So yeah, make it collaborative.
And the last thing I was going to say about that, what I found very interesting, most of the concerns that people flagged are expressed in the land acknowledgement page from Concordia University. So Joseph, thank you so much for sharing that, because again, there's a lot of work that goes behind even the few words that you're looking at. And oftentimes we're quick to, operate out of our own bias of what we would have done, but they're coming from a very specific perspective as well. And so we get to be educated by maybe a path that we wouldn't take, but just to understand the whys and wherefore of that logic. So in their case, it was a multi-year process of putting a lot of resources together harmoniously, and then they share with you step by step why every single line is as you see. So it's not incidental, and why we get to use from I or we, and insert to the pronunciation, they also have audio guides. So they went preemptively, they understood the resistance and the fear around certain tools, and so they equip people with pronunciation. And for me, the experience of speaking a different language is also an experience to understand what it is not to carry my own linguistic privileges always. There are people even today, English is like my third language. And for somebody else to also experience oppression, bias, prejudice through language, it's a beautiful way to also claim humility as part of the process. So whenever I have discomfort, oftentimes it's not so much discomfort as now I'm not protected by privilege anymore. Now I'm exposed. But a lot of people don't have the benefit of not being seen. They're visible minorities. And other ones, they are invisible minorities, right? As we talked about, even with disabilities, it's not written on my face that, I have a disability, for instance. So it's also the effort that we put in and being vulnerable and being afraid to make mistake. It's kind of learning how to be in the shoes of somebody else who doesn't have the option to opt in and out of privilege. Like every day they're seen, every day they're exposed. So thank you everyone for your beautiful shares, and we can move on to the next section. So this was about...
We must, unfortunately, we have 4 more minutes left, and so we actually have to do a wrap up.
Sure.
We're not going to be able to get to the other sections. And before I pass it over to Ezgi, I think a really good takeaway that is not often discussed is when we're doing the syllabus, we're always thinking about how to decolonize, how to move it forward. And sometimes we have to kind of get out of our own way as academics and really humanize this language. And this happened in my group. Humanize the language. What does decolonizing mean in the workplace? What about practitioners? How are we going to equip these students to actually go and handle the world abroad and actually become full citizens that are able to be intersectional with diverse communities? So I just want to leave you guys with that as I pass it over to Ezgi for the last closing.
Thank you. I actually would like to hear, still we have a few minutes, if anyone would like to share the last highlights or takeaways before we close the session, because I think it's very important not only for us, but you also share. Anyone has a burning last minute sharing?
Rachel?
Please.
Rachel, hi. Yeah, I just wanted to offer to leave space for the void. In education, we were talking about how syllabi are packed full of good stuff, and it's really hard to take it all in. And so when there's space for curiosity, I definitely feel better about myself and my place in this world.
I love that. Katja.
Thank you. Yeah,
I just wanted to say a heartfelt thank you for what you organized and how you ran it, because doing this can be a very lonely process, and to see that there's a community here of support is just fantastic. So thank you so much.
Thank you. Thank you so much. Thank you all for coming for this event. I will have an upcoming event, which this Wednesday at 1 to 2 p.m. I'm having Decolonizing Curriculum and Pedagogy Director Donna Goodleave, and I will have a conversation about her own experience decolonizing syllabuses in Concordia University. And the Hub has also many other events upcoming, so please stay tuned. Thank you so much, everyone, for joining in today. Jamila and Ches, if you have last words, please.
Please, you can follow our website, www.thedpphub.com. Please join us on Facebook. We have Artivism coming up. We like to discuss how decolonization and art go together. We have a lot of great spaces, and this is our 5th syllabus decon. We have another one for the new year to really remobilize these voices, and you will have access to the mural. You'll have access to this knowledge, and so you can really hear the collaborative and collective information. And yeah, Katja, we're really not alone. We're all struggling together in and outside of higher education, and so we appreciate all of you. Thank you.
And the last thing I would say, really to wrap up, I'm putting the link to the mural, is you can go on the Hub on our Facebook and our website and build the community that you want to see. So as a reminder that you're not alone, everybody here was as committed and engaged as you are about the work. How about you stay in touch? Even look around to the people in your breakout room, share email, detailed information to keep the conversation going. Look at how you mobilize yourself beyond interactive moments like this. I put again the link to the mural so that everybody could play with it. And then you can have something tangible to hold on to as a part of, your own self-decolonization process. And like Rachel was saying, super important, don't rush this. Change takes time. It's been a generation in the making, and rather be intentional about whatever you do and lean in. like Rachel said, and hold space. It's okay not to know everything. Didn't know everything before and you were fine. You just didn't know that you didn't know. Now that we know there's this pulse, oh my God, I need to prove or I need to compensate. No, just be still and be intentional and mindful, and you're well supported. So thank you so much for your time and space. You're always welcome at the Hub. So stay tuned on Facebook. We're also on Instagram and the website. And think of how you can engage with other like-minded humans.
Thank you, everybody.
Thanks, everybody. We're going to close up. Have a wonderful
Thank
rest of your
you.
day. Thank you.
We will be in
Thank
touch.
you.